Hey guys, we're just going to wait 1 minute here. All right, I'm going to go ahead and get started. Thanks for spending your evening with me. My name is Joel Amer, and I'm one of the owners at Inflatable Office and Event Office. And I've been doing website work for most of my life, 20 some years, and it's just one of the things I love doing, building software and working on websites. And so today we're specifically going to talk about website conversions and one small aspect of it. So we all know it's really important to make sure your website converts well. You can spend a lot of money on marketing and advertising, and if your website is missing opportunities, that's a problem. So our topic specifically is going to be about one part of it. So we're not going to talk about how to drive traffic, and we're not going to really talk about techniques of converting. So converting a visitor to a lead on your website is super important. And if you have a website that has a contact now form, a booking form, or an event hawk chat pop-up type thing, those are all great ways to capture customer information. You can also get creative with things like having free giveaways or drawings or all kinds of different ideas. But the goal being to gather some leads that you can market and sell to. Okay, but our topic today, the trick that we're going to talk about, is specifically called user testing. And I'm guessing that nobody in this industry does it, just because it's just a lot of work. And I'm going to go through a process on how you can do it, and we can hopefully reduce the amount of work it takes you to make this happen. And I'll go explain what the purpose is. So let me see here. All right, so first of all, let's talk about your website a little bit more. So this is an example website that we use here at Inflatable Office. And out of the gate, it's been fairly well optimized for conversions. We've done user testing on it to make sure people know where to find things and that it converts well. But of course, we want you guys all to customize it and make changes and tailor it to your business. But the problem is that when you make changes to websites, things tend to break. And even if you hire a professional company to do it, they'll either make mistakes or, when you keep requesting changes to it, sometimes things don't work the way they originally intended. So the purpose of user testing is to find those mistakes. And so and it's important that it's not just you doing the testing, or you're only doing it once, because everybody that uses your website will do it a little differently, right? You might use a computer with a wide screen, but your customer might be using a narrow screen, or their phone, or a different phone than you, and all of the devices work a little differently based on the screen resolution or the browser they're using. Also, when I say to you, hey, go find a product on your website, some of you may go to the menu up here. Some people may use the search bar. Some people might click one of these buttons or scroll down. All right, everybody has a different style about using it. And so when you're testing your own website, you're just going to go the way that you know. And so it's important to get feedback from other people because they'll uncover all kinds of different issues. So user testing is as simple as it sounds, getting a user to test your site. Now there's some important steps to it. First of all, we need to be measuring a conversion rate. And so let me show you an inflatable office. If you didn't know this already, under your dashboard, under websites there on the bottom left, there's a chart already made for you if we're hosting your site called Website Conversions, and you can use that and it'll track it over time. So this is great. If you aren't always paying attention, you should occasionally check this. I would recommend at least once a week to come into your dashboard and be looking at your numbers to make sure you don't have any issues. Especially if you've made changes to your site or someone else has made changes to them, it's important to keep an eye on this. And I would recommend doing user testing anytime you're making major changes to your site or you're launching a new page. Okay. Let me move on here. All right, so a customer comes to your website and they've got their main purpose is to find out more information about you, perhaps to find your contact information, to browse your site looking at your products and your prices. Those are the typical purposes, right? But your goal is to get their contact information so you can sell them or to have them book online. And so you need to make sure that they can easily find what they're looking for. And if your goal is to collect their information, that you've got a strong motivation for them to do that, and that it functions properly. So what I recommend doing is testing 3 different people at a time. And what you can do, it doesn't cost any money, you can ask family members and friends just to sit down in front of a computer and you record them doing some different tasks on your site. So I've got 3 different scripts that I'll share with you in the comments at the end, and you can use those or you can write your own or whatever you want to do. But typically what we'll do is we'll have 3 of them. The first one will be to test your home page, which would include your header and your footer. You'd ask questions like, well, basically you'd have the person sit down and you'd say, all right, I want you to talk out loud and think out loud as you go through this and answer some of these questions. Okay, what's the first thing you look at when you come to the site? Right, and so they're going to say, oh, well, I noticed the bright colored picture here and the kids jumping, and then I saw these buttons that were bright. Those are typically what people will do. And so you're going to want to be recording this. You can use your phone's camera. Another great thing to do is to use a software that records the screen like Loom or SendSpark. I think you can do some of those for free, or at least a free trial. But anyway, as long as you're recording it, because if you're not recording, you're going to go through these tasks and you're going to forget the details. And what you're looking for is the first person, you're going to uncover 5 or 6 issues, right? Some of them may be major. But anyway, the second person, you might discover 5 other issues, right? And 2 of them might be the same as the first person. And the third one, same thing. They might be 5 or 6 more issues, again, 2 or 3 of them overlapping with the others. And those overlapping ones are the ones that you need to take care of first, right? Those are the most common ones. So what I would recommend doing is you record it, you record 3 of them, and then you go through and watch the recordings and you write down the main issues and you put tally marks next to them whenever they repeat. And so it takes some time, it may take an hour or 2 to go through those recordings. And the user tests don't have to take very long. If you've got everything prepared, it might only take 5 or 10 minutes to walk through it with someone. So anyway, we've got a homepage test. We'll ask them some questions about what they notice, what they can do, make sure that they can understand what you offer. If you don't have a big, bright, inflatable type picture right on your homepage, it might not be clear what you do, especially if you've modified some of this stuff. It might, again, it's like I said, it's important if you've changed everything to get it tested. All right, so the next test we like to do is ask them to shop for a product. So you could say, all right, imagine you're going to rent a water slide for your kid's birthday party this weekend. Go find several of them on our site, compare them, and decide which one you would rent and why, and talk us through the process as you think about it. And so this is to compare the products and choose one. And then the last test would be to test the conversion process, adding the items to the cart and the checkout, filling out the quote form, And you'll need to provide them a sample. If they're not local, if you're doing this online or something, you'll need to provide them an address to make sure your delivery tool works. So, okay, a couple other things on here. There are other services out there that are similar. Hotjar and ClickTail, they do like heat maps and stuff, and they can track your actual visitors' mouse movements and stuff. But I've never been a fan of those. I don't find any value in it. What they'll do is they'll show you that everybody moves their mouse over these buttons and clicks them, but you don't really learn anything from it. Same thing with the ClickTail. Like, you'll see their mouse moving. You can actually record visitors to your site, but again, you don't learn anything because you don't know what they're thinking. So they're not a replacement for these user testings, and you just kind of have to do them. If you want to save yourself some time and you have some money, you can hire people to do this. There's a service I've used before called UserBrain. The prices have gone up. They're about $400 for 10 tests. So the biggest downside I've found with using those services is that you tend to get poor people using it, and they are not always your same clientele. So they may be using an older computer or an older phone, and a lot of times you'll identify issues with older devices, which your clients may or may not even be using. So also you will get foreigners, which again, you can have language issues, right? Like in the UK, they say hire instead of rental. And so if you're going to use one of those services, make sure you pick people that are in your country, and that you, I don't know if you can, but try to choose to make sure they're using certain devices like an iPhone versus an Android device. Really, you have to decide, what is my client going to be like, right? And try as best as you can to find people that would match that. So like I said, those services, again, you could use Fiverr as well. You could probably get them $10 per test. That's probably your cheapest way to go. But I wouldn't do all of your user tests that way, because I think you'll get skewed results that aren't actually quite as beneficial as you would want. But it's a fast way to do it, and it's better than nothing. Let's see here. That was the majority of the stuff I wanted to go through with you. So yes, user testing, not an exciting topic, but it is important, and I bet you no one's doing it. You don't have to do it just on your own site. If you have a competitor or somebody else's site you think is really fantastic and you want to try to copy some of their ideas on your site, you can always run a user test on their site and learn how people interact with it. You may, after watching someone go through your booking process or navigating your site, you might have them do a competitor's and say, you know what, the competitor's one was worse or better, and so I should copy some of those ideas. What I found was interesting is when I started doing these tests on some of our sites, how quickly things that I didn't even think about were exposed, right? Just everybody thinks a little differently, and they look at details you won't notice. So, for example, I think one of the things most of you will probably run into when you ask them to start comparing products is that they'll discover that your product pictures and descriptions are not enough, right? Like, this is just a sample site, but I've only got one picture on here and I have no description. And so they'll have all kinds of questions if they're really thinking about whether they would book it or not. So, you know, you could go through and spend some time on it before you get these tests on, but I would encourage you to do the user tests earlier than you think you would. Even if your site's in progress, it might be worth doing it, because that will help shed some lights on where you need to spend the work now, right? You don't want to finish the site and then do the tests. You want to be doing the tests as you are building the site as well. So, all right, if you have any questions, leave them in the comments. I forgot to be checking them, but it doesn't look like I have any. But yeah, if you leave questions even after this webinar, I'll pay attention. Let me add these scripts in for you guys. And yeah, again, I just thanks for your time. Hopefully this was beneficial. And yeah, it's a short one today. So that's all I have for you. Thanks, guys.